DEC, do you want to do any administrative remarks, or would you like me to go ahead?
The only thing I have, sorry, I'm a little here. The only thing I have is, so I will take attendance here. If you notice, I just hit the record button. So on top of taking notes, I'm going to record this so I don't miss anything, because we don't have Sergeant Velasquez here this year to take awesome notes. So I'm not nearly as fast as she is. But that's all I have, ma'am.
Thanks, Armalillo. Master Sergeant Select, by the way, for all of you. Really excited for her to pin on in March. So welcome to the 2020, are we still ASAP or OCSIP yet? In either case, for our affiliated schools, for whatever we call them, it's been an incredible year of progress. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you all for being flexible for this schedule, for keeping one another safe. It's a very important day for our nation, and it's nice to start it off with people who are all aligned towards a common goal, which is ensuring that the CCAF mission for our students, both in the Air Force and the Space Force, have a path to higher education. So we have had quite a year in terms of progress in our lines of effort. Our first line of effort was strategic communication, helping to reestablish and reaffirm relationships with all of our stakeholders in the field. And we've done a lot of work, not only with high-level leadership, but also at the town hall level with our education service offices. Every layer in between, we have dedicated folks for social media and working on all of those platforms and the best way to communicate with everyone. As far as I was looking back at the minutes from the last year's meeting. We had, good morning, and we had, this Associate of Applied Science in Occupational Leadership that we were proposing back then. Interestingly enough, in terms of its shortened lingo, called the ASSHOLE. So we ended up changing the classification of instructional programs, or SIP code, for the Military Technology and Applied Sciences Management, which we call the MTASM. That one, I don't know that one can be quite as slaughtered in its acronym, but Dr. Dassinger will talk more about just an incredible amount of progress that we've made to secure the approval for that degree program, which should roll out on time this fall. JR and his team in academic programs have really taken a 9-page document of changes that they wanted to make despite a reaffirmation to improve our academic policies, and began to roll those out one by one. It hasn't been without bumps in the road, but I think that they have really had the greatest news story of the year in terms of changing things to ensure that the college is not only relevant, but solvent for decades to come. At the same time, our information technology has been changing, and Captain Ferguson and Sergeant Cooper will give you an update on that, but we have a new student information system that's enterprise-wide that should be out in the next 18 to 24 months. So we've been working closely with AU on the requirements for that. At the same time that we were working those, however, the academic policy changes required reprogramming of our STAR system. And so luckily AUA6, with our relationship with them, has been able to help carve out some bandwidth for Mr. Chris Weinrich to do really extensive reprogramming of a very delicate system. I equate it to trying to detonate safely a bomb from the 60s. So he's worked tirelessly in that regard, despite not being able to be in the office as often with COVID-19. And then last, the establishment of the U.S. Space Force had just happened last year when we met at this time, and also the NDAA 2020 had passed. And so MTASM helps the sister service pathway that are participating in our joint and affiliated schools. And then the U.S. Space Force, although we've prepared a specific pathway for them, they have not yet requested anything separate and distinct, but they but they will, we will stand ready to help them if we can. So all of these changes that we've been helping to make for the college have happened in a period of a world pandemic. You know, I, as a biologist, we've never been so popular, but not in the way that I had hoped. But I have so much respect and am honored to lead this team that they've been able to be flexible throughout this time. The one thing that I regret is that we come together today in a meeting that was supposed to be led by our dear Master Sergeant Chris Messer, who we lost this past year. And so I will say that the best way that we can honor him is to do what he was most passionate about, which was dedicated service to ensure that our air and space professionals have the best possible opportunities for the future of our nation. So with that, I will turn it over to the DEC team and we'll get this started. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So it is actually to Mr. Ori to call the meeting to order, opening notes. I would pull it up on my other laptop, so I'm running everything off of my home computer, but my work laptop is not wanting to work, and that has all the agenda and everything on it. So it's over to you, Mr. Ori.
I got it. Thanks. We'll officially call the meeting to order. Thanks for the opening comments, Colonel Pursuto. Again, it's been a challenging year. There's no doubt. Changes that have been made in order to try to work around COVID, amongst some other things that have occurred in the past year, has been challenging at best. We know that people are going to be coming in and out during this meeting just because, like me, I'm in the office and I'm the only one here. So there may be a time when I have to go answer a call or do something else, but we'll stay as close as we can to the agenda and as close as we can to completing the meeting as scheduled. Administrative notes. I'm not sure that we have any. Does anyone have any comments that they would like to make concerning administrative notes, other than normally at this time, right, we take a look at last year's minutes and vote on those. I didn't see any problem with those minutes. If anyone had a problem, let us know.
Tim, this is Julie Crutchfield. I just wanted to mention that in the bylaws and the pre-read stuff that came out, we were still listed as AFSOAC, even though we've been the 492nd training group for almost 3 years.
Right, I saw your comment on that, and I think hopefully that'll be changed this year's minutes and get you designated as who you really are.
Thanks. And unfortunately, by next year, that's probably going to change again. We might be safer to just go with AFSOC.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Anybody else? All right. Next thing then, if there's nothing more on bylaws or on last year's minutes, is just an agenda review. As you see, we're scheduled for 2 half days today to complete sometime around 12 o'clock. Obviously, that'll be flexible. We'll go longer if needed, shorter if possible, and we'll continue to press on as long as we have all the issues covered that we need to discuss. If there's no other comments at this time, we'll turn it over to Dr. Dassinger for the NDAA and MTASM comments.
Thanks, Tim. Good morning, everyone. Just an update of where we are in the MTASM. When we talked last time, we had not secured approval within Air University for the MTASM degree. We thought it would be approved, and that has come to pass. We're waiting on the official letter for the record, but all indications are that the degree program will be approved as we have proposed it. There are a couple of minor things that we want to get clarified, and that was the part of the proposal that suggested that we have concentrations where an individual could take 9 semester hours within a particular topic area, and on the transcript it would say a concentration in. We think this is a useful notion for a lot of reasons. One is if we were intentional about this, we could identify, let's say, 7 to 10 topics of compelling interest to the Air Force, negotiate with education and training providers to provide coursework in those topic areas, and then award concentration recognition in those areas. So, for example, obviously, space operations could be a concentration area as we move towards a separate force, and yet we still want all air and space professionals to have some level of awareness. In the past, nuclear operations have been of interest. Cybersecurity is always of interest. Ethical leadership could be a compelling interest topic for us. Culture and language could be such a topic. So what this gives us the ability to do really with this degree program is move concentrations in and out that may be of interest to our students. Sometimes their degree program is not their degree program of choice, but obviously driven by the AFSC. So this would enable them to intellectually play in another area so that when they pursue a subsequent 4-year degree, it may be in something that they're intrigued by. And so that gives us an opportunity to do that. And so those kinds of details still have to be ferreted out, but we're excited about that. Remember, the purpose of the MTASM from Jump Street was to provide several of those AFSCs out there, and I think at one point there were about 17. Because of the inadequate amount of vocational skills training, really did not have a pathway. And so as we corrected these academic credit awarding policies, those pathways began to unravel, because those pathways and these policies were designed to kind of patch those gaps in the vocationally based degree program. Unfortunately, those patches were inappropriate, and so as we correct those, it revealed gaps in the ability of our students to complete a vocationally anchored degree. So the MTASM as a degree program not anchored in any particular vocation would correct that. That's good news for us and good news for those AFSCs that don't have a pathway. The most pronounced example of that, of course, is the band career field, where there's actually 0 skills training that occurs, and so they actually have no vocational pathway in the band arena, but they can pursue the MTASM. And I'll talk in a minute about the implications of that for our students as they pursue the MTASM degree. The other area, of course, is and a related topic that Tim said I would talk about is the NDAA 2020. That legislation provided CCAF with the opportunity to provide CCAF programs, degree programs, and credentials to other than Department of the Air Force enlisted personnel who are attending CCAF education and training programs. That provision was already in place for sister service instructors teaching at CCAF affiliated programs, but now students from other services that are attending CCAF affiliated programs are eligible to participate in those programs. And again, the traditional vocational degree probably wasn't the best option. The MTASM will enable us to count the vocational training they receive through CCAF programs and yet account for other things that they may experience in their service, like their leadership training perhaps. We'll be able to account for that through the MTASM degree. So again, the MTASM will provide a pathway for those AFSCs that have inadequate vocational skills training to warrant a vocationally based degree, and sister service personnel that are attending CCAF affiliated programs. That still doesn't account for everybody. So for example, there may be sister service personnel attending ITRO programs, and if those are not affiliated with CCAF, we still have a problem there. So again, that legislative language gives us the opportunity, but it doesn't solve world hunger. The other thing I will mention is through the combination of all of these academic credit awarding policies that are removing the ability to earn credit where it is academically not appropriate, that is going to drive our students towards having to take more courses through civilian universities. That, of course, will impact not only their own time and their own dime, but military tuition assistance. So as they try to fill out their degree program requirements, they're going to increasingly have to rely on civilian education programs that we will then treat as transfer-in courses. I think that's probably enough as an update. So again, we are approved at headquarters of Air University. AUA 6 is marching along. Our IT people are marching along and are very shortly going to begin working on creating that degree program structure within STARS. When that is done, and again, our goal is to launch this fall. There has been some talk at AU senior leadership about trying to launch that degree program earlier. That's not a problem from our perspective, but it probably is a difficulty for our AUA 6 colleagues as they've been quite busy trying to make some changes to STARS to account for all these credit awarding policies. So I think that's enough there, and I'll be glad to open it up to any questions or concerns that you may have in the group. Over.
Hey, Doc, do you know, have any sister service folks contacted CCAF about credit or being part of since the NDAA went into effect?
Oh my, yes. There's been a lot of traffic. Some individuals that have been, asking the question, hey, can I get a degree now? Can I get credit for this? So there's a lot of details to be worked. Army University has been talking with us quite a bit. METC, the Medical Education and Training Campus, as we transition medical programs over to the DoD Medical University System, CASH, and USUs. There has been talk about the unintended consequences. As CCF backs away from that, METC will no longer be affiliated, and so the opportunity for sister service personnel to get credit in that fashion is now going away. So there's some consternation about that. So we're in fact, we were on a conference call yesterday with Colonel Villarreal at METC on a particular program. We've been in conversation with Army University. So yeah, there's a lot of interest. But again, the thing that we've had to make it clear over and over again, we cannot reach sister service if they're not a part of the affiliated school system. The long pole in that is generally always been the instructor qualification issue. Whereas in the Air Force, we generally are much more user-friendly on academic credentials, generally speaking. The Army and the Navy in particular have not placed as greater emphasis on academic credentials and degrees. And so those instructors have difficulty meeting those requirements, even for a 2-year degree. So that is certainly a long pole in the tent as organizations out there that could affiliate with us.
Thank you, Shane, so much.
Try to affiliate with us, that'll be a problem for them. So that's been a real challenge as we've tried to negotiate that. But again, those conversations are ongoing, Tim. We don't know what that traffic is going to be like. We don't know how much activity will occur there. So not sure. I'm seeing Lori and team has appeared on the screen. Do you have a question, or are you just showing me your lovely masked faces? Lovely masked faces.
Good morning. No, this is our victory dance. It took a hot minute to get in, but thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And by the way, we'll try not to be distracted. People are going to get booted off the system and have to come back on, or lose connectivity and have to come back on, and we'll just take a pause as they enter and exit. No problem there. If that happens to you, just come back in when you can. Any other questions about the MTASM or implementation of that and accounting for NDA 2020?
Doc Dassinger, this is Mr. Geibner from AU. Hello, everybody. Good morning. I wondered if we could publish the degree plan to allow the ASAP members to see it. I think the logic of the degree plan is probably useful in helping them to understand how it works.
Yeah, Jeff, that's no problem. One of the things that I hate to flip it back on you guys. One of the things that we were waiting on was to get formal approval before we released it, but we can certainly release it. I think we're good enough there. Jeff, I know you've drafted that letter, and your team and leadership is looking at that letter of approval, which is accounting for a couple of different issues that were pending with us. So yeah, there's no reason. I don't mind providing the full prospectus and all. Welcome back, Julie. So I don't mind providing the full prospectus, and that will be in all sorts of detail. It'll show exactly what our thinking were, our challenges, what we were trying to do. But as a minimum, you may be interested in the degree program and how that's laid out. So we'll provide that. Summer and Tom, if y'all will help me remember, we'll provide that as a part of the minutes that go out so that people can take a look at that. We also have a couple of slides you may be interested in, and that's the degree program structure and its comparison to the vocational degree. That may be interesting for you to look at. It's just 2 slides. We can provide that to you as well so you can see what the vocational degree looks like. And this is really, as Colonel Pursuto said, a historic moment in the life of CCAF and in enlisted force development regarding degrees, because this is the first time that I know of in CCAF's 50-year history that we're going to be having a degree program that is not anchored in a vocational degree. While we talk about having 77 different degrees, they're essentially one degree program structure in 77 different academic disciplines, and that would be the specific vocational degree. So this degree is really historic in nature in that it's not anchored in a vocation, rather it's anchored in the profession of arms. So great comment, Jeff, and we look forward to hearing from you later on a range of matters of interest to us, including the subcommittee's work on credit awarding policy. Any other questions or comments from anyone?
Dr. Dassinger, this is Lisa Arnold at 2nd Air Force. I just have a curiosity question. You mentioned that more classes might need to be taken from outside institutions. Aside from the basic gen ed, what kind of courses, like what would be an example or how many?
Probably program electives. Not sure about how many, because that's going to vary as a function of the academic discipline or the vocation that the person is. Keep in mind, even though this degree is not anchored in a vocation, every single credit that we award for the vocation will be able to be ported in, and it will go into the Applied Military Operations and Technology subdiscipline. There are 2 subdisciplines to the MTASM academic degree. So it's probably going to be in the area of electives that the person might take related to their vocation if they're interested in it. There are going to be open electives that they can take. It could be the area of applied military and management science, so leadership or leadership-related kind of courses, Air Force and culture and language, of course, Air University courses that could account for that. And this may be as good a time to talk about this as any, and JR, I'll invite you to jump in on the conversation. We have recently reached an agreement with basic military training. You are all aware that the PT credit has gone away for BMT. What you may not be aware of is we have been negotiating with one training squadron at BMT that's offering some pretty good stuff, and after our evaluation, we're going to award 5 hours of credit in the LIMS area, Leadership and Management and Military Studies area, and the only thing that we were waiting on was for that coding to take place, and Lisa, 2nd Air Force, was involved there because the students are coming out of 2nd Air Force in BMT. So the ability to make sure that graduates of BMT and only graduates of BMT would get those 5-hour credits. JR, jump in and add to that discussion, both in terms of the nuances of that credit, how far back we're going to grandfather that credit, and anything about the recoding process. JR, over to you.
Yeah, Hank, actually, most of this I'm going to cover in my update that's coming up next.
Okay, all right, so we'll defer on that and let JR talk about that in his hour. But yeah, so it'd be those kinds of courses. So basically, the nice thing, Lisa, is that people will have a lot of flexibility because as a profession of arms, there's a range of areas, including military science, military operations, intelligence, military technology, national security, even computer science, engineering, ethics, field training issues, leadership, military strategy, logistics, management skills, and even politics, political science kinds of things. So there's a range of courses that we believe we'll take. And so this is going to give our students that are in this program an opportunity to really intellectually explore and take some things that have not been available to them before because of the specificity and the more narrow requirements of vocationally anchored degrees. So it's a pretty exciting development. We think students will be excited about that. And I anticipate that there's going to be interest from AFSCs that otherwise could be in a vocationally anchored program to pursue this route instead. So does that answer your question, Lisa?
Yes, sir. Yes. Sounds exciting, like you said.
Yeah, I think it will be. Other questions or curiosities from the group? As you can imagine, we've been working hard with our education services officers to get them ready for this so they can properly advise our students. That training will go on. We've been engaging in a lot of messaging efforts about what's been going on at the college during this rather amazing year that we've been undergoing. Not only these changes, but COVID really has changed the nature of our business. At this point, I want to invite Colonel Pasuto, if you're on. Is there anything else that you wanted to add in on this topic or related?
Doc, I think you did a great job covering it. I'm just really excited that this not only helps open up areas for all of our members in a way that stays within the left and right hand limits of what we're able and allowed to do. So I see it as a great win-win. And I also see it in the future, especially as a way to help align what is of extreme importance to our senior leaders in the Air and Space Force with the needs, with the airmen that we need. So I think it really does help support that program as well. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah, thanks, Colonel Pasuto. And we mentioned the Space Force. We stood that up. That's still a bit of a wild card. We're not sure how that's going to play out. There's certainly an opportunity for space operations to have their own degree. We have offered that up right now. It's embedded as a part of the Air and Space Operations Technology degree, but they could have their own degree program. They could certainly pursue the MTASM. So that is under development there. But again, the MTASM gives us flexibility that we did not have before to meet a range of needs, both for the individual airman and space professional, as well as AFSCs, and as well as our sister service community. Any other questions or comments?
All right, thanks, Dr. Daxter. Now we'll turn it over to JR. It's time for your brief.
Well, hi, everyone. I need to provide an update on where we're at with the plethora of academic program updates and policy changes. So this is kind of going to be a whirlwind a little bit. The last ASAP, I provided an update on these changes and some rationale behind it. So keep in mind that what's driving the majority of changes within the institution as we know it, there was the SACS accreditation, the reaffirmation process, the 18 months prior to the SACS team visiting Maxwell, the General Cotton Air University Commanders initiative for the reimagining of the college and posturing it for the next 10 to 50 years. And then plus there were issues with compliance for academic standards and accreditation. So there's a lot of different things, a lot of moving parts that drove these changes. Am I driving this one? Yeah, let me drive this, if you don't mind. It's not letting me, Summer.
If you want to, I can stop sharing my screen and allow you to. Here.
Yeah, please do.
It's all you.
Nope. Okay, that's right. Next slide. Well, what happened?
I was fixing things and then you unfixed.
Okay.
You wanted me.
I'm going to keep on talking while you figure that out. Okay, so in the CCF Reimagine, there's 5 major line of efforts. And the third line of effort is what I'm going to talk about today. And basically, this is about changing academic policies to ensure compliance and integrity of our programs and integrity of the institutional credit that's awarded to our students. Okay, next slide, please. So in this, we had to codify all of our policy changes, ensure that we disseminate all the information to the field, the CFMs, the education offices, our schools that's represented here, that's part of the CCF system, and of course the students themselves. And then we also had to make sure that we educated the career fields of these policy changes to make sure that everybody understood the way forward. And in this, there's a process that's embedded in the SACS accreditation standards that talks about evaluating other sources of credit to replace the old specialty internship model that we had in the past that was technically not an internship experience. Okay, next slide. Okay, so there are 10 changes that I need to talk about, or basically refresh everybody and give you a status of where we're at. As you already know, there were 2 degree programs that were highlighted by the SACS accreditation visiting team as being non-compliant. Mass communication and the music degree program. The real issue with those, as everybody is aware, is there's no curriculum or no faculty that's part of the institution that's awarding the credit and awarding the degree. So the decision was made to close those degree programs to make sure that we are in compliance with SACS accreditation. And the way forward for that is will be the MTASM degree program once it's in line. The next policy was proficiency credit. The issue with that is the curriculum and the faculty for these ITRO courses, basically initial skills training that's delivered at other service sponsored courses, are not part of the institution, CCAF. There is an issue with that, as everybody's already aware. The academic review committee convened and discussed it, and the approved way forward was to discontinue proficiency credit as it was established probably almost 20 years ago, and to convert it to what's now titled as N-credit, non-institutional credit. How the credit was applied in the past, the proficiency credit was applied in the past, was being applied in a technical core, the academic discipline degree. That's an academic issue that had to be resolved. So the way forward is P credit courses were converted to non-institutional credit based on the SACS language of credit being awarded other non-credit educational experiences outside a collegiate course meriting consideration for award of academic credit. So this new credit designation, these ITRO courses, there are 11 of them that we've converted. This credit cannot be applied towards the academic discipline, the technical core. However, that credit can apply towards technical elective or program elective. One way to change that type of credit to CCF institutional credit is the school or the course and faculty may become part of the CCF system. But so far, only one of the former 12 ITRO programs has decided to partner and be part of the CCF system. The other 11 has elected not to do that. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, I already talked about the specialty internship credit. How the credit model was instituted several years ago is not a true academic internship experience. There's no institutional faculty or institutional curriculum that's embedded in that credit. What we completed probably 8 months ago in doing the research and finalizing it is changing it to institutional or non-institutional credit, changing the IMT designation to upgrade training credit. This credit value was assessed based off of the CFETP for each of the AFSCs. The programming it was completed back in April, and so now going forward, INT 5000, INT 7000 has been discontinued and it replaced with UGT type credit. The good thing is the semester hour value based off of the assessment in the process of the upgrade training process, the semester hour value did increase. So for the 5 level, it is now 9 semester hours versus 8 previously, and for the 7 level, it's 6 semester hours versus the 4. That's the good thing. However, in the past, that INT credit was being used in technical core, the academic discipline of the degree. This is non-institutional credit, and it can't be applied in technical core. However, it can be applied in technical elective or program elective. And I guess I need to retract or back up a little bit, is when I talk about non-institutional credit, keep in mind that that credit cannot apply towards the 25% institutional credit requirement, which we always call residency credit. But just keep in mind that this type of credit can't be applied in that 25 percentile. The next one is SDI credit, basically the same thing as INT. They're the same issues as I just mentioned. The SDI designation was replaced by what's now called Special Duty Qualification Training Credit, SQT. And in the past, CCAF was awarding 5-level equivalent and 7-level equivalent credit to airmen serving in SDIs and RIs, reporting identifiers. There is no upgrade training experience being accomplished in most of those specialties. Most of them didn't even have a CFETP or a JQS to go by. But we were awarding credit as if there was a 7-level experience happening. And so this had to be corrected. So now those career fields, those SDIs and RIs that have a CFETP or JQS, we can award credit for at the 5 level because there is no 7-level upgrade process. Again, this credit is non-institutional credit, cannot be applied towards technical core, but can apply in the technical elective or the program elective area of the degree program. All right, next. This one was kind of a significant issue. We were awarding INT 3000 and SDI 3000 6 semester hours for basically no experience at all, or no academic experience taking place at all. That had to be discontinued. Again, there's no faculty, no curriculum as part of the CCAF system. and you can't enter an academic internship experience without the didactics prior to. So we had to discontinue the 3-level credit that was being awarded to students if they did not attend initial skills formal training. The way forward is these career fields, these airmen that are in career fields that have insufficient formal technical training credit, that the MTASM degree is an opportunity for them. One thing down the road that we may look at, we've discussed internally, is to explore the possibility of prior learning assessment, but we're not quite there yet. The next one is, in the past, we were awarding degrees to individuals that had insufficient vocational or insufficient credit in their vocation. The issue with that is the academic discipline of the degree was not being satisfied by institutional credit awarded by the institution, which is CCAF. So effective April of this past year, that was discontinued. STARS programming was completed back in April. Again, these career fields that have insufficient technical training, and Dr. Dash already mentioned there's about 17 of them right now, they're going to have to shift over to the MTASM degree program once that program is activated. Okay, next slide. Dr. Dash already mentioned the discontinuation of physical education credit. Back in the mid-90s, SACS eliminated the physical education component within the accreditation standards. However, CCAF did not change that. But we are going to discontinue that requirement in our degree programs, which is not going to impact any of the students at all. As of Friday, that programming has been completed. The firewall issue that we had with the basic training credit was resolved. So the good thing is, even though we're doing away with the physical education credit piece, we have already started awarding credit for BMT. The evaluation of the portion of the curriculum came out to be 5 semester hours that's going to be applied in military studies that can be used in leadership management military studies, the LIMS portion of our degree programs. So all the issues that we had between the TTMS grad reporting process to STARS was resolved as of last Friday. Mr. Weinrich at AUA6 did a data pool and pulled 32,000 graduates, BMT graduates. It's already been pushed to student records. That firewall issue was about a 6-month project, if I remember correctly. Those at 2nd Air Force can probably answer that better. So going forward, in the new catalog, that's going to be the 22 catalog, we will reduce all the degree programs from 64 semester hours to 60 semester hours. So the BMT course that we're awarding credit for, the effective date is 17 October 19. So any airman that completed BMT after 17 October 19 will earn the 5 semester hours for BMT. The next one is Dr. Dasker already kind of hit on, and that's the double counting of credit. So in the past, CCAF policy, reusing credit was allowed in LIMS and program elective. Technical education and credit used in technical education was burnt credit and could not be reused, but the credit applied in LIMS and program elective was allowed to be reused. That's an issue with accreditation academic standards. So there were airmen students that were earning a second, third, fourth, even a fifth CCAF degree with as little as only 24 hours of new credit being applied, and that is not good. So effective the 7th of January this month, that has been discontinued. Credit cannot be reused in technical education, LIMS, or program elective. It has to be new or unused credit. The only exception is a general education. A general education course using a first degree can be reused in a second degree in general education. But it's only the second degree. If it's if a student is going for a third degree, it has to be all new credit. That's right there is the issue that a lot of airmen they're not going to understand, and we have provided information to the field, to the education offices to make sure that they properly advise the airmen as they pursue their second, third, fourth degree. All right, next slide, please. Splitting of credit. The issue here is when you convert a quarter-hour credit to a semester hour credit, the formula that's used is basically dividing that quarter-hour credit by 1.5, and during that conversion process, there's fraction credit. Usually it's 0.33 or 0.66. And what was happening in the past is our system STARS, was using that fraction credit to make up a semester hour value. And when you look at that, that's not sound academically, and it does not align with coherent courses study in achieving that subject area requirement of the degree. It's also a SACS accreditation issue. So because there's an issue with the STARS programming to eliminate that from happening, we are changing the way we load that quarter-hour converted credit to student records, and I won't get into that. But the main thing to understand here is that the fraction credit will no longer be applied and used in the degree programs. Okay, the culture and language credit that was already discussed by Dr. Dashner again. In the past, there were 2 culture and language courses that we were using to satisfy social science requirements. Air University and CCF is not authorized to offer general education courses. So that has been eliminated. The culture and language courses can be used in program elective, or even technical area of the degrees, but it cannot apply towards a general education in social science. So that has been discontinued as well. Everything, yes.
JR, it's also counted as institutional credit, you might mention.
Yeah. actually, the way forward there, I mentioned that, it says may apply towards program elective as institutional credit. So all these 10 policy changes, a lot of moving parts, a lot of effort to make this happen. But I can happily say that as of today, the programming and stars is completed, and we can move forward on to other things, and all this will be behind us. But all these things were necessary policy changes. Some of them were unpopular, especially to our airmen, but it was a necessary change to preserve the CCAF as the institution and Air University as the degree granting authority. So everybody can have a coherent course of study and program moving forward. All right. Now I'm going to get into the catalog changes. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Hey, JR, this is
Yeah.
Shane Wood from Shepherd.
Hey.
Hey, sir. A couple of questions on your policy or the policy changes. Specifically, policy change 6 addressed 17 AFSCs, and addressed those AFSCs that lack vocational or institutional credits.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I find a list of those 17 AFSCs?
Okay, good. That is actually in the prospectus for the MTASM degree. Most of them, and let me get to my slide and I can find it.
I know a lot of my courses are CE type courses, and they are affected, but I wanted to make sure I knew exactly which ones were.
Yeah, so in your area, the CE courses, there were some P credit courses that had to be converted. But most of these were SDIs that have little or no formal training, but they were allowed to be part of a degree program. Like, for instance, in Intel, there was the 9L. Can't remember what that is. I think it's either defense attaché or linguist. I can't remember. But anyway, but there's no formal training that they have, or there's insufficient formal training that we award credit for, but we were allowing them to be awarded a degree without satisfying the academic discipline with institutional credit. So it's a geeky way of saying that's incorrect.
I understand.
Yeah. So but most of them were SDIs. There are a couple of them that were actual AFSCs, but we can send that out.
Okay.
Hey, Jared, Chief Kleppel, I can send that list over to Mr. Shane Wood. I have a handy Excel roster I can pull up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Chief. JR, I had a second question that talked about the double counting of the credits on policy change 8. Is that directly affecting our instructors getting their IDMIS degree? In other words, is that what we were talking about? They're using the vocate.
Yeah, it's definitely going to impact any student completing a subsequent degree, a second degree, and IDMIS is affected as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
But the good thing with the faculty, the instructors in IDMIS degree is the teaching internship and BIC and EPMIC is all institutional credit, and they're going to be able to satisfy the minimum requirement of the tech core. It just means that they're going to have to do some additional things if their desire is to complete the IDMIS degree.
Okay. Okay, I see a list now. Cool.
Yeah. One of them that on that list right there is no longer an issue, and that's the 2A5 X2B, the H60 maintainer course. That program has become part of the CCF system, so that's no longer an issue for them.
Okay, so So it looks like EOD is my only course affected.
Yeah, EOD is an interesting one. We've had conversations with the CFM and the schoolhouse because the large course at Eglin, if I remember correctly, is a 49 semester hour P credit course. It's not part of the CCAF system. The school,
That's fine.
yeah, the
Yeah,
school.
I don't want to
Yeah.
tie the conference up there, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate the list.
Okay, no problem.
All
right. Somebody's sharing some music. Okay, next slide, if you don't mind. Yeah, I'm going to zip right through, talk about the catalog changes. The 2017 to 2019 CCAF catalog was revised. Actually,
Hey, JR?
yes.
JR, was there a slide that you had for that? Because I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, Summer, I think, is working to bring that up.
Yeah, Doc took control, so I have to regain control again. I'm bringing it back up.
Okay, here we go. So the 2017 catalog originally was from 2017 2019. Due to the delay of or the accreditation and the policy alignments and changes and all the lines of effort that's been going on, the decision was made to push the 17 catalog to 2021. We, as of last week, we finalized the updates to that current catalog, and now it's 2017 to 2021, and then I'll talk about the new catalog that's going to be published in 2022 later. But in the revision of the catalog, we updated all the policy changes. There were several AFSCs that either changed or merged or converted. So those changes were made. Made sure that the tech core requirements were updated with the current curriculum being delivered at the tech training schools, and also captured the current course descriptors. The change 3 to this catalog was published on the 15th, just the other day. This does not include the new MTASM degree. Once the new MTASM degree is ready to be executed or implemented, then we'll do an addendum to this, and it'll be change 4. And then don't have a date on that yet, but we're looking at late summer or maybe early fall of this year. So a lot of changes had to be made to the 17 catalog to make sure that the students had a clear sight picture of their degree. All right. So we have been in progress of developing the 22 catalog. This catalog will be from 2022 to 2024. Again, just like we've done in years past, review of all the degree programs, the policies and procedures, make sure that we capture all the information and changes that I just discussed previously. With the new catalog, we are going to reinstate the 3 semester hour oral communication speech requirement. So students enrolled in the degree program that's in the 2022 catalog, all the degree programs require speech. The option will no longer be available. And then, of course, I already mentioned that all the degree programs are going to be reduced from 64 to 60 semester hours. All right. Okay, so wrapping this up is the teach outs. We have several medical degree programs that were transferred from CCAF to the College of Allied Health Sciences. The first one there is aerospace historian. That, you know, there was a change in the workforce requirements. So the schoolhouse closed. The program was closed for new student enrollment on the 30th of September of 18. I think there's only 6 students still enrolled in that degree program. But the teach out expires on the 30th of September 24. So those 6 students still have up until that date to complete the degree. And then there are others. I'm not going to get into all the dates, the effective dates, just letting you know that these degree programs have been closed for new student enrollment. Those students that are currently enrolled in those degree programs do have the opportunity to finish their CCAF degree by the teach out expiration date. Nuclear medicine, cardio lab, and histologic. Next slide, please. Diet, nutrition, diagnostic imaging. Recent, August of last year was ophthalmic, and then just a couple of months ago was pharmacy. Right. Then this one is to the next medical degree programs that are being planned for transfer to CHS. No movement on that yet. That's all to be determined. All right, next slide. Well, I'm done. I know this is a lot, and I probably sped through a lot of it, but for the sake of time and just for refresher purposes only, because a lot of this information I already provided the last ASAP. But just letting you know that a lot of these policy changes took a lot of time and effort to get completed and implemented, but we are completed out on implementing those policy changes. A lot going on.
Hey, I see Rhonda Battles has her hand up. Rhonda, did you have a question?
Hi, good morning, Doctor. Yes, sir. I was wondering if it was possible for us to receive an email copy of the slides that we're watching today. That way we can take notes as we move along.
I can most definitely do that.
Thank you, ma'am. You're a rock star.
We'll need to send that out right away, though, if they want to take notes on the fly.
Raj, the only other slide deck I have is from Mr. Jeff Geidner, so I will send that one out, but I will send this one out that I just got, so.
Okay, any questions for me before I turn it over to Tim?
JR, can you just explain a little bit on any of the conversations or challenges we've had in terms of the METC transfer or doc as well, based on the working group that you have?
Go ahead, Hank.
Well, it's a tad messy. One of the things that makes it messy is the receiving college, the College of Allied Health Sciences, their ability to receive courses from us as per the schedule is dependent on receiving funding from their parent organization, USUHS, which is like our parent organization, Air University, where CCF already has the programs. Any movement of a program to them requires additional funding from that service, that lead service for that degree program, or from USUHS, so that they can buy the faculty and the course managers to implement it. So we've had some fits and starts. We've had some delays. Yesterday's conversation was a conversation with somebody from METC that wanted to even rethink how we were considering transferring them to include moving the clean kills first, the ones where there was already credit there and we weren't going to mess with the credit, to ones where there were credit issues or they were not credit-bearing courses right now, and even a discussion about if there are Air Force-only course degree programs, maybe they should stay with CCAF. Now, as we talked about yesterday, CCAF does not have the authority to stop these transfers. These were driven by NDAA, was it 2018, perhaps? So it's and it was BRAC related, where, again, one of those efficiency things, it should all be consolidated as a joint kind of endeavor. But things are happening across services with regard to the purpleization of medical services. And there was a letter from the Joint Chiefs to the SecDef, I believe, saying stop the purpleization of the medical services. Each service needs to keep its own. So we're uncertain if that's going to have an impact on this. So we are motoring along cautiously. We kind of don't have a dog in the fight. Our primary commitment is to make sure our Department of the Air Force personnel that are in these medical programs don't fall through the cracks or don't get left behind. The other thorny issue is there are training that and education programs that occur in the medical field post METC. In other words, after their associate's degree, and the 59th Medical Group would like for them to be able to get academic credit for those. So there's conversation about CCAF being involved, even if we transfer that primary degree program, to try to somehow award credit for that medical training that occurs often at a medical facility outside the schoolhouse. It'd be like an internship or a practicum perhaps, but it's phase 2 or it's advanced training. To even include making it a part of an MTASM for medical people. So all those conversations are going on. It's quite messy. And again, we're just proceeding cautiously with the direction that we have and being open to meeting the needs of the service members. So Colonel Pursuto, I don't know if that's what you were talking about, but it's a bit of a spaghetti mess. Over.
That is what I was talking about. And I think it's worthy to relay to this crowd because, oftentimes CCAF is helping to execute a policy that is external to our control. Another example would be the Air Force COOL program. We execute the policy that's developed much, much higher than us. But oftentimes we end up taking the brunt of the frustration discussion and often the blame for these changes. And so it's helpful to us, especially with this crowd of supporters, that just hearing those conversations, if you get wind of that frustration, at least having a little bit of knowledge armed that you'd know the right people to contact, or to just relay them to our office and let them know that, none of this is smooth. These are all big, heavy lifts, but we're dedicated to the Airmen and Space Professional, making sure that they have what they need. Over.
I have just one last thing to add before I turn it back over to Sergeant Melillo is, and I think most of the folks that's on right now, they understand this issue is when a career field makes a decision to waive a formal training requirement due to the airman's prior experience or qualifications, that is fine and dandy. I mean, that is a workforce management option, doing the right thing for the airman, for the career field, and not spending training dollars to send somebody to formal training if they already have that knowledge and skills under their belt. For us, the impact to that airman is that airman's inability to complete the CCAF degree requirement because there's no institutional credit that we can award to the airman if they are approved to be waived by the authority. Okay, and that's a piece that we get hit on quite a bit. Is it's not fair that we can't award somebody a degree just because a decision was made to waive formal training. Nobody is saying within this institution that airman is not qualified in the career field. Could be probably the best in that career field as far as we know, but from an academic perspective, an academic standpoint, CCF can't award that degree to somebody that has not completed the formal curriculum and earned the credit by the institution to be applied towards that degree. And that's probably one of the hardest things that we've had to try and explain to some airmen over the last year, is that part right there. All right, over to you, Summer.
Hey, JR, this is Julie. I had a question real quick about what you just said about the airmen. So what's going on with the AETC promotion or idea to send folks to get their training in the units? How are those people handled? Because in the force development meeting I was in, one of the generals from AETC said they're getting the exact same training as they get in tech school. It's just being conducted at the unit. And I was just wondering if you had heard about that going on, or if that applies to the same, if that would apply exactly like you just said.
Yeah, Julie, I have not been part of those conversations, so that's news to me. However, I will say that that's an issue if a airman is completing that derivative of formal training at the unit outside of the school that's taught by the qualified faculty. That's an issue for us. There's the curriculum oversight, the faculty oversight, the person that's providing the training. We don't have eyes on that. So that is an issue. That's no different than how we are awarding credit for the 5 and 7 level upgrade with the internship process. You know, it's no different than that. So anyway, I'm not aware of that. I know that there's a lot of moving parts in the background that's going on, conversations with 2nd Air Force and Western Governors University and some competency-based learning initiatives and so on, but you know, we're not really part of those conversations.
And I've asked that we be part of those conversations, because this is exactly, especially, you know, with the changes to 2nd Air Force, if we're not part of those conversations, then exactly what JR just said, we get ourselves into a bit of a pickle. And so we have right and left hand limits that we have to abide by with the accreditor. So ma'am, if possible, I would love if you could provide just a summary email to us, to the leadership team, so that we can make sure that we elevate that, so that they know that they're aware that these changes are going on outside of.
Ma'am, Brian Davis may be able to speak to that at 2AF.
Hey, Colonel P, this is Dr. Davis. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Davis. How are you?
Hey, doing well. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, to clarify, this is a trial that we ran on 2 cases only. This is an option for limited number of career fields to try. The instruction was not given by people who are not certified instructors in the field. The airmen that are that were in these trials were instructed by AETC instructors. It was just a different format. Instead of in the classroom, it was online. Okay. So that's where we're at right now. It was a small group trial. It remains an option for some wings to do that. And I'll be happy to get them in touch with you if there are CCAF issues. But by no means is this anything that is impacting enterprise-wide, and under no circumstances is any training being conducted by non-certified AETC instructors. Over.
Well, thanks, Dr. Davis. It makes me feel better that you're included in this discussion. So, we want to make sure this year has provided us, with a lot of flexibility that we continue to have, and as we work through COVID, But I want to make sure if we're doing anything long-term that CCAF are part of those conversations so that we can help ensure that that credit is being given where credit's due. Thank you.
Yes,
So I
ma'am.
wonder if I could, this is Mr. Geithner, I wonder if I could ask a question of Dr. Davis. Sir, was there any kind of comparative study done on those beta tests that would compare the results that in terms of student learning between the beta course and an actual in-resident course?
Yeah, there was an outbrief on that included some comparative analysis, but and I'll be happy to forward that to you if you want to see it. However, keep in mind that the sample size was incredibly small. We're talking like 6 people.
Right. Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
I think Violet Brantley had a question. Her hand was up. Violet, did you have a question?
Yes. What I was going to mention is we were the test case for that, and exactly what Doc Davis stated is we used a very small portion. It was the we used the 3DO, the knowledge management course, because we got permission from the career field manager, and we test cased that with Goodfellow. It was a very controlled environment that we did that with, and Doc is absolutely correct. These people, we did not expect the field to teach them. They just went directly from BMT at Lackland over to Goodfellow. They got in process to the comm squadron, but then they were our students who did the training online, just like what we're doing here as we do this conference online. But our AETC instructors trained them. One of them actually got 100% and scored. And in addition to that, we also are testing it with our admin. I can't remember, it's personnel admin. I can't remember which AFSC, but one of the soft skills AFSCs. We did it for all our prior service airmen. Instead of sending them TDY to Keesler, they were in the classroom, but they were in class online with the instructor teaching them. So at no time did we put in jeopardy their ability to earn CCAF credits.
Well, the CCAF credit, this is Hank Dassinger, is something that, of course, we would need to be involved in and have not been involved in. It really depends. We don't need to take up the ASAP's time on this, but it's certainly something we'll need to talk about. The thing that you're talking about, if you're going virtual in the classroom, the instructors are still qualified, the course outcomes are the same, perhaps no problem, but, absent a fuller understanding of what's going on, we really can't comment. But this is probably appropriate for a side conversation later, as opposed to taking up the ASAP's time. Over.
Okay, I have no issue. We can discuss that later. That's fine.
Okay, over to you, Tim.
All right, well, according to the agenda, it's time for a break. So it's 9:20 Texas time. So at 9:35, we'll get back together and continue on.
I'm sorry, Tim, is that you? I did not recognize you with that beautiful facial hair. I've muted you. You're muted.
Wow, look at that. I had to chirp in.
As I've gotten older, things have drastically changed.
You're missing the red cape and hat.
I could have wore a red sweater. I just didn't.
It looks good on you, Mr. Ward.
Yeah, okay. Take a break.
Taking a break.
I don't know how many people are still sitting here, but I figure I'd chime in while everybody's taking a break. You should have got the ASAP slides that Mr. Breeding went over. I sent the ones that Mr. Geithner will do tomorrow. Doc Dassinger just sent me ones from the MTASM, so I sent those as a separate email. If you have access to the chat over in the side, all of those slides also should be in there, along with the agenda and everything else. If you didn't get those, let me know. I know there's a bunch of phone numbers at the bottom that are from Lackland. I don't know. Doc Crutchfield, I got your number. That sounds really weird. But I know you're the 850 number, but I don't know who any of the 210 numbers are. So.
Sorry, Malillo, I can go ahead and put the campus affiliations update slides in the chat as well when I get done.
All right, I've got 9:35, so we will start the meeting back up. At this time, we're turning it over to Master Sergeant Baker to talk to us about some things going on there at CCAF. Over to you.
Well, good morning, ASAP members. How's everybody doing today? I know everybody's probably missing those large urns of coffee that we put out, and also the binders that we put out. They're about 3 inches thick, so I apologize that, but we're trying to make the experience as good as possible for you in lieu of that and with current events. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share, and I'm going to bring up the first and the only topic that we got from the field for familiarization, because I know it's going to be talked about tomorrow, not only in the actual discussion of the topics, but also in the PPG, because that's what it's actually related to. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Where did it go? As you can see, we always put out a call for topics, and this is the topic that we received, which is actually related to course documentation. Now, the PPG has left DEC, so Campus Affiliations has actually sent that out to the individual offices for their input prior to it actually getting all of the content taken care of and being edited and released as a final document. This particular one and the PPG is now currently at DEAX, so this will be implemented soon. I've talked to them, I've given them the documentation. They have a time in order to get it done, so that should be taken care of. So the copy of this topic is in the chat, as Sergeant Malillo did say, so if anyone wants to view it, you can view it there. But does anyone have any questions on this?
For those of us that are on the phone, could you share exactly what the slide says?
Certainly.
Sir, I don't have any chat capabilities.
Same here, Dana, we do not.
Okay, sure. Sergeant Malillo, did you get a chance to send this out to the individual members of the ASAP for those who cannot access?
I will send that out right now. I didn't realize nobody had, or some people don't have chat function, but it is coming to your guys' inbox as soon as I can.
Thank you, ma'am. I can go ahead and read it out for those who do not have that capability. So this is the one format discussion topic that we got, which came from Ms. Violet Brantley from the 81st TRW. Recommendation is insert detailed guidance concerning course document requirements to be evaluated by CCAF for college semester hours. Place in current paragraph 31. The rationale is that they've been going, and this is of course something that is felt by a lot of schools, they've been going back and forth with DEAX, which is of course the course director, to have their new client systems course be evaluated for college semester hours. Detailed requirements would alleviate the back and forth. The reply, which came from DEAX, is that they will be adding to the course documents section of the PPG. Course document requirements used to be covered in ATCI 36-2641, Technical and Basic Training Development, but that document was rescinded in 2019. And they will provide specific requirements to alleviate that confusion. So you can actually go into the PPG, into this section, and actually have, no kidding, requirements. All right, the course documents need to say this in order to get the amount of credit that you believe should be awarded by the course. And it'll alleviate a lot of that back and forth during that 14-day period minimum that you're required to turn in course documents. So for those who do not have chat capability, does that help you out any?
It does. So now my question is, does that mean that all of the command schools are going to be required to use the AETC formats?
Ma'am, I can't speak on that because us at CCF, we don't require any specific form. We just say, all right, if you're going to turn in course documentation, this is the information that we require, but we do not dictate any form. So as far as AETC dictating anything, that's not really something that we at CCAF can speak on that. Because we have different MAGCOMs, ACC turns in course documents, AFSOC, other schools, they turn in documentation, and of course they're not using the ATC form, they're just providing the information that we require, so specific dates, etc.
Sorry, Baker, if I could jump in here for a half a second.
Go ahead.
So I have not seen what DEAX's inputs are for this specific section. And I was looking to see if Mr. Breeding was still in here or Mr. Offhouse had joined us. But I will verify here in a second. I'll give him a call and get back with you to see if they are making that a requirement. I doubt they are, but I don't want to speak for that section.
Hey, Summer, Mr. Breeding got kicked off. His computer decided to do a major push. It's been happening to us here. It happened to him, so he's going to get back on when that push is over.
But yeah, as far as requirements, we've never been in the business of you need to provide it on this document. It's just these documents will require X, Y, Z.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's come up at several different CRV in briefs and out briefs, and I believe it may have come up in the past in ASAPs as well. So any more questions on the discussion topics? Again, this is just an overview. The main body of discussion will come tomorrow when you say yay or nay. Okay, if we got no questions, I'll go ahead and move into my brief. So again, my name is Master Sergeant Tom Baker. I'm the Superintendent of Campus Relations. What I'm going to talk about first is we had a interesting 2020 CRV schedule. We went into it, of course, with the pandemic operations, which suspended all of our TDYs and going anywhere, which also affected our ASL training. But there are no problems, there are only solutions, so we figured out a way to make it work. And that ended up becoming the new normal, and we were hoping to move into in-person CRVs again this year, but it's not really a pandemic thing, it's more of a continuing thing that we're having to do what we do. Some of the things that we found are, and again, more of the same. There's only so much that you can look at when it comes to a CRV when you're doing it virtual. Really, it's what we can see and what the school is reporting on their attachment 3. And some of the things we still found were, of course, number 1 is course documentation. Figuring out and making sure that what is being on file and being taught at the school is what we have on record at CCAF. That, as everybody knows, that makes a difference because that determines how much credit we award for any particular course that's being taught, and that's going to be catastrophic if left unchecked. X amount of students are being awarded X amount of credit hours erroneously, so that can make a big difference. It can make a lot of work behind the scenes, not only for us, but also for the schools themselves. So that's the number 1 thing that we've been finding as of the 2020 schedule was course document problems. And something that we look at a lot is the faculty qualifications, using the pre-look worksheet. So overdue SMTs or SNQs, overdue evals, missing documentation. Those are some of the things that we have found faculty qualification wise that are fairly common, but still something we wanted to bring up because they end up coming up at every single CRV outbrief. Some of the best practices, and best practices is something we'd like to really highlight when we get a chance to actually go out and look at the schools, because we're getting a chance to see the technology that schools are using to teach CCF courseware. We're getting a chance to see it real time. Now we had to kind of rely on what is being reported, but the use of technology has also been important because people have had to make that paradigm shift because not everybody has been able to continue in residence education. So use of technology, often virtual, has been very important in making sure that the mission still gets done and students still get trained. Via Zoom, Microsoft Teams, any other type of way. Use of blended learning has been observed. So that's some of the best practices. And with, of course, the use of technology and the changing of the paradigm with the COVID pandemic, we've had to do some things with our own ASL training. Initially, of course, we like to have our 4 courses a year here in residence at the CCAF classroom, but we have not been able to do that because people have not been allowed to travel. So just like everybody else, we've had to shift to virtual courses. We had a considerable number of virtual courses in 2020, and we were able to surge in order to get some of the new ASLs trained. We're also still working on our distance learning option, which will be done through Canvas, where people can work through the Canvas course and possibly do a self-paced instruction and come trained as an ASL that way. Another thing that we budgeted for, we were planning on doing in 2020 and now still trying to plan for in 2021 is the mobile training teams. So Lackland, Keesler, and Shepherd, who have a lot of ASLs, we've talked with them and we've even budgeted for the possibility of going out and doing mobile training teams at those locations. So we send a representative out to train ASLs. We use some classroom space out there and we train ASLs or any ISs even that maybe need training on what CCAF does and how to be an ASL. So we got our 2021 CRV schedule. We've coordinated through the schools, we've coordinated through the MAGCOM IG gatekeepers, and we've gotten that approved. Of course, when we were still creating this, we were thinking, okay, maybe we can do this in person, but that turned into maybe we can do one of these in person. We will see. But right now, this is the scheduled dates for each of the individual schools as to when we are going to be performing CRVs. You probably recognized it because you're probably one of the schools in the audience. And these slides will be available on the chat feature or emailed out as well, just like the agenda item that I just talked about earlier. Our ASL courses, right now, most of them are considered to be virtual. They are able to be registered for via the SharePoint that's sent out to all the ASLs. I know Sergeant Rivera from Campus Affiliations has been administering these for this year. The 9 to 10 February, the virtual, I believe that one right now is full, but you can always go and try and see if there's any slots available to register for that, or you have any of your folks that need to register for that. Moving on, we also have the March 21. That was meant to be the Lackland MTT, but that's pending if it's going to be virtual or not. I know Sergeant Rivera is working on that because we still don't know if we could travel on that one or not. The one in May is virtual, and also we have the MTTs, again pending, depending on if we're allowed to travel for TDY, and then everything for the rest of the year. So we have our 1 per quarter, and we've also got the MTTs. Now, one of the things I like to throw out there and offer is if you have a school that has a need and maybe you need a one-off virtual ASL training, say you've got 7 or 8 individuals or more or less that need to be trained, just contact us and we can help set you up with a virtual course and we can facilitate that for you. As we understand with travel dollars and making training, but we want to make sure to provide good training to the field. That way the program has a lot of integrity and we make sure that everything is working right. So just let us know. You can email us at the ccaf.fac inbox and we can facilitate that if you have any need for that. All right, so that concludes our campus relations update. Does anyone have any questions for me or the team?
I have a quick question. I was just wondering, have you garnered any feedback from your virtual ASL training versus the in-seat?
Yes, ma'am. We definitely have been taking all of that feedback because we have our course critiques at the end of every single course, and we've been using it to implement and make the virtual training better. We try to make the virtual training as robust as the in-person training to the best of our abilities. Of course, you can't make everything work currently, but we've definitely used that feedback, and we've had approximately 5 virtual courses, so we've gotten a chance to make and actually revamp that. In addition to that, we've also had policy changes which have driven updates to the course as well. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yes, absolutely. It's really tough to have a substitute for good in-person training, but we're doing our best. Any more questions?
I have a reattack for you. So Doc Crutchfield talked to Mr. Breeding, and he said that he is not aware of any changes that require a specific form for course documents, so not to worry about that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Malillo. All right, one more around the room before I turn it over to Mr. Ori. All right, once again, welcome to the ASAP. I hope that you get a lot out of it. I know we enjoy putting it on, and it's a shame that we can't see all your faces in person this year, but again, current events. So over to you, Mr. Ori. Thank you.
So if Mr. Ori is not there, we can go bypass him and go to 2nd Air Force. I don't know if it's going to be you, Miss Lisa Arnold, or Mr. Brian Davis that is going to run it, but 2nd Air Force is the next one on the list to have updates.
Right, we're going to actually have a demonstration. We're going to do a MilWiki demonstration and cover a couple of the hot topics. They are in the process of logging on now. They were in another team meeting. Miss Carrie Shows will be the one leading that, and we'll have Miss Linda Ramirez and possibly Miss Vaquero as well offering assistance. But they're in the process of trying to join the meeting now, so if we want to just give them a sec. Don't know if you have anything in the interim, Doc.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Yeah, it looks like we're about 30 minutes ahead of schedule, so I'm trying to get them to log in.
Hey, Dr. Davis, this is Angelique Crawford. When the discussion occurs on the test that we were talking about as far as CCAF instructors teaching on site via online, I'd like to be a part of that or listen in. Over.
Okay, Angie, I'll send you what I just sent Colonel Pursuit a little bit ago.
Thank you so much.
All right, I had some computer difficulties, so I think we're back on target now.
All right, it shows out to the side that the invites are calling them, so hopefully they'll be in momentarily.
while we have this break, who's online from Vandenberg?
Debbie Johnson is.
Okay, are you the only one?
I'm sorry, Mr. Ori.
Is that? I was just checking. Are you the only one from Vandenberg?
Yes, sir. As far as I can see, based on the little things, that I am the only one. Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, you're welcome.
All right, we got Ms. Vaquero in, and we're waiting for the other two to join. They're trying. Okay, sorry about some of that downtime. I'm going to let Ms. Vaquero talk about the 281 while we're waiting for the others to join. Initially, what we were going to do is we were going to use that as part of the Milwaukee demonstration. But yeah, go ahead, Joanne, if you would like to discuss the 281, and then we can open it up if anybody has any questions.
Okay, great. So not sure how many of you are aware of this, but last summer sometime, the general was out doing a walkabout on her at the bases, and instructor brought up that they were not real happy with the checklist style 281 format that we had because they didn't feel they were getting adequate feedback on how to improve on those areas that they were being marked down on. So we went through the process of trying to go ahead and align our product with education standardized competencies. So we looked up IBSTIPI and tried to formulate our questions to better reflect those competencies that all instructors should have. And that's how we went ahead and generated the form and went through extensive review processes with everybody at the group and wing to ensure that we captured their concerns and then got the a continued ranking kind of system on it. I don't know if you have all gone out and looked at the new 281, but it provides for additional feedback for each question now instead of just, yes, they did it, and this is what they did for the outstanding markings that they got. Now they need to provide feedback and or recommendation for all of the areas that we ask about. So it's just more in line with how the Air Force is moving towards competency-based requirements. So if we're going to require them to perform certain competencies, then we need to evaluate how well they do that. So we're just trying to bring the evaluations process in line with the competency-based training that we are expecting of our students and and of our instructors. So I don't have my form up right now, but it's relatively the same kind of information we're looking for. It's just we want the evaluator to explain why they gave the rating that they gave and what the instructors were doing that met that rating and what they could do to improve those competencies that they have. Hopefully it also be more in line with what Air University is going to be bringing on board for the evaluation process of and tracking process of instructors' qualifications.
All
That's
right.
kind of it in a nutshell.
Does anybody have any questions about that? Have you guys seen that? Are you familiar?
Hey, this is Mr. Geidner. I don't have any, I've not seen the new 281. I would like to see it, but I wondered, you said you used the IPSI competencies. Did you publish a set of teaching competencies so that the evaluating instructor, defined what each of those competencies were, as well as the new instructor would know how they were being evaluated? So was there a set of teaching competencies published at all to go along with the use of the new form?
Yes, we actually did an extensive guide that explains all of the competencies, sub-competencies, and behavior indicators that you would see for each of those competencies. Now, we haven't completed what they do at each level in order to receive the basic or intermediate or higher, but on some of them we've already got that completed, but we haven't done it for each and every single item. Yes, Carrie? Can't get connected? Oh, all right. What about Steve? Steve, you can do it hardwired. Sorry. Yes.
So when you say basic, intermediate, or does that mean do those categories of scales replace needs improvement, satisfactory, outstanding, which I think were maybe on the old form?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And that is all available out on the Mill Wiki, which, are you going to get to the Mill Wiki when you get on?
If I can get on, I can't get on.
Right, but is Steve getting on?
He's not here.
Where'd Steve go?
I don't know.
Oh, for Pete's sake. All right, let me go ahead and get to the Mill Wiki so we can look at this, maybe. So yeah, so anything that actually used to be a former guidance for any of the jobs and processes that used to be covered in all of the 26, 41, 42, 43 are now out on our Mill Wiki page. If you have received any emails from anybody here at A30S, there will be a link at the bottom of their signature block that gives you the URL for the Mill Wiki page. So, and we've been out trying to push this with all of the group commanders and everybody, training managers, anyone that we talk to, we're like, you need to go out to the Mill Wiki, so because this is where we have put how you do your job, because we are guidance on how it can be performed, not necessarily the processes that you want to do, but since it's all elective at this point. But the 281 is still kind of a mandated form that needs to be used in order to evaluate our instructors. So we went through the whole process of getting the new one put out there. So it does have the new ratings, what in the guide, what percentage of each of those items you have to get, just like on the excellent and the outstanding. And AETC is supposed to be redoing the master instructor guide in order for it to use the same verbiage as we currently have on the 281. So let's see, where is my 281 at? Not there.
At Lackland, and some of the units are actually, they're utilizing the form. They've taken the train-the-trainer training and taught it in-house, and we've received some really, really good feedback on it. I think the main thing in the process is change management, because the old form had been in existence. It was the checklist mentality and had been in existence forever. And so it's just, being able to unfreeze people, so to speak, and get them to actually use the form. And then the feedback has been very positive.
For Pete's sakes, I can't find anything.
Right.
Was
We'll
Carrie
send the
planning?
link
Pardon?
to the guide and the form itself. I'll send to Sergeant Malillo, and then that way she can blast it out to everybody who is on this forum right now. I'm not sure why Carrie is having problems getting in. I've sent the invite and sent the link to click at the bottom, and so I'm not sure. I'm trying
Yeah,
to
I didn't have any problem once I got in. Maybe she wasn't logged into her system yet. You know, because I logged in this morning to Teams, and then
Right.
when I got yours, it let me get right in.
Right. Yeah, you guys were doing the adjudication on a different team.
Correct.
And there were some issues because when I tried to join back in just to kind of watch and say, hey, come on over to this meeting, I had some computer problems. So our team's problems trying to get back and forth.
Can't find anything today. All right. So
strange. Well, we could, let's see. Some of the other.
Lisa, do you want me to step in with the reclass?
Oh, sure. We'll go ahead and do that. And then that way, when Carrie does get in, we'll just use the policy and the other status codes that we were going to demonstrate.
Okay.
Hey, Miss Lisa and Miss Ramirez. So I just saw that Miss Battles has her hand up. I don't know if she has a question for you guys or if it was answered. She just didn't put it down yet.
Hi, yes, ma'am. I just wanted to find out, what was the, I don't have it at the top of my head, what was the implementation date for the newly revised 281? And then I did want to throw in a caveat that even though Ms. Dana Horn is no longer in the policy piece, she did update that master instructor package and the guide to reflect the appropriate verbiage for that new 281.
awesome. That's great. Trying to answer Dana right now as soon as I get to the chat.
But if possible, if you can recall what the implementation date is.
We had put, I think, a 90 to a 120. So by the end of next month is when everybody should turn over and start using the new form only.
Okay, great. So I'm going to use the word assume. I assume that at that point it will be integrated into the training supervisor course as well.
I'm hoping so. We'll have to check with FACD because they were given that notification as well that they had until February to modify.
Okay, well, I can reserve the rest of the questions for tomorrow's meeting with AATC or the 2AF.
Yeah, Rhonda, we've already put it into our supervisor course.
Goodfellow has as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Joanne, this is Dana. We updated that master instructor guide at the end of October.
Oh, awesome. So I'll put that out to the FACD as well, and then just check with them and see if they'll if they've got the courses changed so that we're not speaking out of turn.
Right. Yeah. There's the monthly meeting is, I believe, tomorrow afternoon. But we've been talking about it through that forum as well. So some places are really on it. It's kind of impressed with some of the schoolhouses out at Lackland last week. So. All right. Is there any other question or business about the 281? If not, we'll press with the other topic and keep trying to get Carrie boarded here.
Okay, I'm not hearing any other questions, so I'll go ahead and start. I'm Linda Ramirez. I also work in A3OS with the rest on the team, and I'm going to talk about the efforts to reduce reclassification downtime. We all know that 2nd Air Force has the 5 training wings. where we train all of our airmen and officers. When individuals join the military, they get a specific career field, and in turn, of course, they get training for that career field. As we all know, a few of the students may encounter issues either with their academic or performance training and must be removed from their current course of training and the career field and reclassified into another career field. In an effort to reduce some of the downtime between the individual failing to progress in training and from their original career field and moving on to their next training career or next training course. And we've had long periods of downtime. So 2nd Air Force has directed a very short timeline for each step in the reclassification process, along with a new streamlined form, which is the AETC 125A. We also have a new online tracking database, and this has helped us easily monitor the status of any of the students that are going through the reclassification process. And between the new timeline, the new form, and the new tracking database, we have seen big reductions in the amount of downtime between the individual failing their first career field, the training for their first career field, and actually moving on to their next training location, or possibly the same training location, just a different course. Another initiative that's underway, and not everyone in AETC or in our training world knows it yet, but we have another initiative that we are going to incorporate the 125A into our current learning management system. Granted, it is a little ways out. Our estimated implementation date is December of 2021. Any questions?
Hey, ma'am, this is Angelique Crawford from Goodfellow. Can you expound a little bit on what you were just talking about as far as incorporating the 125 Alpha into the LMS? Over.
What it will be is we're working through our A36, who's working with the TTMS contractors, and they will make it so when you have an individual that fails and needs to be eliminated, you'll be able to click a button to pull up a 125A that will be, for the most part, filled out. A lot of the information will be pre-filled out. That'll reduce the number of errors, typos that we have seen on the 125As, which in turn slows down the entire process. Granted, not all the specifics as to why they failed will be in there, but the basic information that is already loaded into the LMS will show up as far as the course number, the block, all that information will be able to pop out into the form, the individual's name, things like that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, just second, anybody have anything else for 2nd Air Force? And 2nd Air Force, do you have anything else that you want to discuss with us?
No, we'll send out the link for the Mill Wiki and some information on that. And that's all we have.
Lisa, it looks like Carrie's on. Carrie's now on.
Well, I'm not. If you're on, Carrie, speak up, unmute, and let's get this train rolling.
Hi, this is Carrie Shouse from 2nd Air Force. Sorry, I had a little trouble getting on, had some technical difficulties.
All right.
I would like to give you a demo of our MillWiki site that we use for our process guides. We took all of our processes out of our instruction and put them in process guides out on MillWiki. We chose MillWiki because it is a collaborative process. And get out there. Getting out there right now.
I see the problem, Carrie. You're actually in the office.
Yes. I always have trouble when I'm in the office with technology.
All All right. Well, we appreciate everybody's patience. If that's okay, Mr. Ori, we'll go ahead and do the demonstration.
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
logging into
not
MillWiki
quite
right
sure.
now. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Great.
Awesome. We can see it.
Not only do we use MillWiki for our process guides, but we also use MillWiki to adjudicate policy, to review and adjudicate policy. This is the policy site. And on the policy site, we put the policy in different sections. And when you click on a particular section, like training manager, for example, and you go to the talk tab, you can see where people discuss things. People make a post, like here, post by the 782nd, current language, proposed language, and rationale. And then we have people from the other wings and groups give their comment on it, whether they concur or non-concur in their rationale. And that helps us, the 2nd Air Force, adjudicate the comment, because not only do we just have a single comment from a single person like you do in a CRM, but we actually have everybody else's opinion about their comment. And it makes adjudication real fast and smooth, and then we get everybody's weigh-in on a particular person's desired change instead of just their desired change and our weigh-in. So it's a lot more of a collaborative, inclusive process. But we also have our MillWiki site. It's United States Air Force Basic, Military, and Technical Training is what it's called. We'll go out there, so you can just search for it once you log on to MillSuite, and it's just millsuite.mil to log on to MillSuite. And then from there, you go to MillWiki. And then once you're in MillWiki, you can search for whatever you want, whatever MillWiki site. And the basic military and technical training processes is where we have our process guides. So this is the main page. As you can see here, we've got it divided into different tabs based on different primary duties that people have within the technical training enterprise: curriculum development, classroom operations, training management, student management, ITU, military standards, evaluations, pipeline management, and faculty development. We also have links on the main page to instructions and policy and related procedural guidebooks. You'll notice that the PPG is one of the policies that we have, because our instruction actually mandates the use of the PPG. And we have some training here for people that are unfamiliar with using MillWiki. I like to take you out to one of our process guides out in student management. So if I click on student management, you'll see here we have our process guides kind of divided up into different categories. One is student status codes, so I can click on that and it'll tell me everything I need to know about student status codes. One of the things that we've done is, for the different type of codes, you can click on them and it gives you the codes and their definitions, as you can see here. So it's very user-friendly. Also, we have videos over here that they can watch that uses MillTube, which is also part of the MillSuite process. We can look at one of them. We can look at the elimination reclassification, for example. And it has a little video here.
Is it possible to share your audio, Carrie?
Can you not hear it?
No. So what the product does is it goes through the entire process of when the students arrive and all of the codes that get entered and who's responsible for entering them, and just makes it a little easier to watch instead of reading everything on a black and white piece of paper. And we try to encapsulate what happens across the command in general.
Okay, so we have those nice little videos. Sorry, my volume, I didn't see how to share it. But we have those nice little videos you can go out there and watch. These are just some examples of some of the process guides that we do have. We can always go back. And under faculty development, another tab, show you some of the process guides we have out there. One of the things we have out here is a faculty development training matrix, where we give them suggestions of what courses. So we keep up with what courses our different faculty developments are conducting. And we provide this training matrix, which just basically gives a recommendation depending upon your job, like this is for instructor supervisors, what's highly recommended or recommended courses out there that they can take. And we have this for all the different positions. So that we do have a lot of faculty development training going on for all the positions within tech training, not just the instructors. Here's one for TDE personnel and training managers, for example. And also, if we go to our classroom operations, we have a lot of process guide on that, including a lot of student-centered things and things of that nature. One of the things we got there is the instructor evaluations guide, that Form 281. We just recently redid the AETC Form 281 and made it a much better feedback tool.
Yeah, we were talking about that as you were logging in,
Okay.
Carrie. We talked about the 281, and we also talked about the reclass.
Okay.
So is there any possible way, since we have folks from, represented from different bases, if possibly go into one of the base tabs or just kind of highlight that and let folks know that one thing that we noticed when I was out augmenting the IG last week at Lackland is, people will have, because the AETCI has responsibility instead of process, and then the wiki has the process guides. Sometimes you'll have stuff that's specific to your base. And so you have these options that you can go in here and place the material in there as well. And the one good function of the wiki is that you can actually conduct peer reviews, or you can go into, the other bases folders and benchmark if there's something that you can potentially utilize at your location. So it's very helpful, and we're doing our best to try to get the word out on the wiki. Before COVID, we actually had a roadshow planned, but it got nixed, just like a lot of, other things.
So on each one of these tabs, we have a base specific process area. If it's red, that just means that there's no base specific processes for that particular area. Right now, we're looking at curriculum development. If it's blue, that should mean that they've got something posted out there. We can click on Goodfellow, and they have their different organizations on there, and some of them are blue. And we can go right here, and you can see they have an inspection battle rhythm posted out there. So you could click here and go get that inspection battle rhythm for the 17th training group. So that would be an example of something that is base specific to the 17th training group, where they would use their base specific tab. Also, when we do a deliberate review of all of our process guides. And when we do a deliberate review, if you click on that process guide, there will be a talk tab, just like we use on the policy side to adjudicate. Here on the process guides, we have a talk tab, and we allow people, we schedule POCs from across the wings that we have established to go out there and look at it and make comments. So you can see here for this analysis process guide that there were four basic comments made, and then replies from each other on those comments. So Gene Strauss made some comments, Barb LaFave concurred with his comments, then I concurred. And this allowed me to look at his comments and evaluate them, and I can see that somebody else agreed. That helps me make my decision whether or not I agree or not. And so then I concurred, and then I made that change. So as you can see here, a lot of times we get concur. All four of these I ended up concurring on. They were good recommendations, and they made the process guide better. So that's what this deliberate review is doing. It's making the process guide better. In addition to this deliberate review process that we have going on, we allow people to edit the MilWiki anytime they want. It is not anonymous, though. We get an email letting us know that they made a change. And when we get that email notifying us that one of our process guides has changed, we go out there and we review it and make sure that whatever they made was an improvement, okay, and not something that they shouldn't have posted. We found that 99% of everything that somebody changed or post on MilWiki is an improvement. So allowing the flexibility to have people to go out there and change stuff has been very beneficial for beefing up our process guides and turning them into what they are today, which are very useful job aids for people. That's what they are. They're designed to educate people and help people with doing their job. We try to make them detailed enough that a person can use them as a guide and actually do their job, but broad enough that they can be used at all wings, nothing real base specific in them. That's why we have these base specific processes over to the side. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on our process guides. A lot of people find them very user friendly. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. Does anybody have any questions?
Hey, Carrie, this is Jeff Geidner from Air University.
Yes, sir.
Was this first of all, well done on this. It looks extremely interesting and helpful. But I wondered, was this an ATC initiative or just an initiative through 2nd Air Force?
Just an initiative from 2nd Air Force.
Okay, so have you used this tool to adjust policy?
Well, what we've done is we kind of did them in tandem. When we originally set up the process guides, we were doing guidance memorandums. This goes back to 2017, 2018 timeframe. We were doing guidance memorandums. You know that the leadership from the Air Force, the CCAF, asked us to reduce policy. And in an effort to reduce policy, we wanted the policy to be the roles and responsibilities for the different positions. And so our goal was to take the processes out of policy and instead put them in process guides. Right. And when that was the goal, and we were in the process of doing that, we had to determine, okay, how are we going to do these process guides? What platform are we going to use for the process guides? And we decided to use MilWiki because MilWiki is very collaborative, and we wanted it to be very collaborative. As new ways of doing things, as new processes come up and new ways of doing things, we want to be able to share those things and update our process guides on the fly so that we can keep our process guides efficient and effective and updated. the whole thing by doing away with all the policy on the processes is to free people to be innovative and be able to come up with more efficient and effective ways of doing business. Their roles and responsibilities are concrete in the policy, but how they accomplish those roles and responsibilities, we want them to have freedom to innovate and improve and be, some flexibility on how they do their job. At the same time, you're new to a job and you don't have a clue what to do, you need some guidance. So the idea behind these process guides is to give that guidance at the same time while giving that flexibility. So the process guides are not policy in that you're not required to do something exactly the way it is in a process guide. You have that freedom to be flexible and innovative and maybe do something better. And when you try that new thing and it works out better and you find it is more efficient and effective, the idea is that you will share that. You will, on our deliberate review, you'll post that recommended change, or you'll just go into MilWiki and make the recommended change, or you'll email me. I get emails from time to time from people out in the field saying, hey, we did this way, which is different from what the MilWiki said, but we found that it worked better because blah, 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 and resulted in blah, blah, blah. And I'll take that information and I'll go into MilWiki and I'll change it, because some people are hesitant to change MilWiki. They're like, oh, that's a second Air Force thing. I don't feel comfortable going in and changing it. And so they'll send me an email instead, and that's perfectly fine. I'll go in and change it myself, but we do allow them the flexibility to go in and change it. But like I said, we monitor that very closely. We immediately go out and look and see what they did and make sure that it's good and everything. And if it's not, there's an undo button in MilWiki. We can easily mash that undo button and undo exactly what they did, and it reverts back to the previous version. But we found that that's not necessary. I think I've used that one time in the few years that we've been using MilWiki, because people really don't take the effort to go out and put something in MilWiki unless it's good. It's the best practice. It's something that worked really well and everything. So.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
All right. Does anybody else have anything for Second Air Force? Appreciate your time taking to give us the brief. I'm not sure what the applicability is for all of the other folks that are not part of 2AF, other than maybe it's a good best practice to look at how we're setting up processes to ensure that we're meeting all of our requirements, not only regulatory requirements, but also how we can make sure that we're doing what we need to do to meet PPG requirements. So thanks, Carrie. Thanks to Second Air Force and all your folks for your help. Appreciate it. So at this time, we're going to transition into, well, I'll tell you what, that was a pretty long time. Let's take a break. We'll come back at 10:45, and then we'll press on into hot topics. Thank you.
I think I'm not sharing my screen anymore, am I?
No,
we can
just
still
for
hear
you.
you.
Carrie, you're not muted.
Oh, okay.
Hey, folks that are still here, we received a recommendation that we go ahead and close out the meeting for today so that folks can watch the inauguration if they choose to do that. Does anyone have any opposition to doing that?
No opposition here.
Copy then.
Sounds great.
That's what we'll do. All right. Thanks. That's what we'll do. And then I'll stay on the line here to 10:45 just in case somebody didn't get the message. But we will resume tomorrow morning at 0800. Thanks.
All right. Well, yeah, I heard you guys starting to talk. I was in grabbing another cup of coffee. You said we're breaking for the day?
We are. We're going to start back at 0800 so folks can see the inauguration that choose to do that.
Sweet. All right. And thank you so much again for the opportunity, allowing us to brief. That was awesome. See you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.
Hey, Tim, this is Barb Lefebvre, Space Force.
Go ahead, Barb.
I came in late because I didn't seem that I got the invite, so it was sent to me, but I will be here tomorrow just to let you know.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Tim.
All right.
Hey, Miss Barb, if you are still there, or anybody that's still here. So this recording, as soon as I can and have access to the Air University YouTube site, I will upload this. It will only be accessible by link, so anybody can go back and review, or if you didn't have access to the slides, you can see the slides. You should have been sent those. If you didn't get sent those, shoot me an email. I've got one more link or one more email to send out, so I'll try to leave your guys' email alone for the rest of the day. But that's all I got.
Copy. Thank you.
All right. Sweet. Summer, can you so you'll send us that YouTube link once you have it up, everything's good and uploaded?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Yeah, because I guess the way I joined this meeting, I can't see the comments or the files or anything. So I think I'm just a guest or something, but that's cool. So, all right, great. Well, have a good day and we'll see you tomorrow.
Summer and Tom, are you all still on?
Yes, sir.
In the chat function, I've been placing some information from SACS on accreditation issues, dealing with direct assessment competency-based education. I'm not sure if what Second Air Force is talking about reaches that. Hang on, let me get rid of this phone. But it could dance into this arena. And again, this is one of those things where we would never tell Second Air Force they can't do direct assessment competency-based education. But it is a substantive change if it reaches 50% of the degree program, and depending on the AFSC, it could. Now, we've always done competency-based education and training in the Air Force. So the question becomes is how do we assess it and how do we document credits? If it's based on achieving competencies and not Carnegie classification or seat time or whatever, that represents a substantive change if it exceeds 50% or more of the program, which is the degree program, not a particular course. So I've got that information out there. If it comes up again, we'll have that in the chat function, I suppose, if people can see that. Over.
Raj, I'm not sure how many people can see that. So again, in this last email, I will include these comments that you put in the chat just so they're on the email.
Why don't we hold and do it if required?
Raj,
I don't want to stir up. I don't want to throw a rock at a hornet's nest unnecessarily. And again, my goal is not to tell any training entity how to cook their grits. We just need to do it in such a way that we don't risk accreditation or ability to award academic credit where due. That's that conversation earlier that Colonel Pursuto had quite rightly when we were talking about something else that was going on. And I think this was the issue. So again, I'm not sure what they're doing. We really haven't been involved in a detailed way, but I have that hanging out there if we need it. Deal?
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so for those of you who went on break and may not have got the message, the meeting is ended for the day. We will start tomorrow morning at 0800. Thank you.